Okay, so today we are going to discuss a very important topic in cell biology as well as molecular biology as well as in pharmacology, that is cellular signaling transduction. Okay, so what is signal transduction? Now listen, whenever any cell, suppose this is a cell, whenever any cell needs to be activated, then what you will have to do is this: you will have to, suppose this is a molecule A, okay? Suppose this is a molecule. Now listen, this molecule A is actually suppose an activator, okay? Now listen, what will happen is this molecule A will activate the cell, okay? But if I tell you that suppose there are two ways by which molecule A can activate. Number one, it can actually cross the cell membrane barrier. Number two, it cannot cross the cell membrane barrier. Now you can very well understand that there is a very good chance that A may or may not cross the cell membrane barrier. But my question is this: if A cannot cross the cell membrane barrier, then how this activator or A can activate this protein, this cell? How can A activate this cell? Right? Now listen with all your attention. Actually, there in a biological system or in a cell, there is a conserved system, okay, conserved system of proteins and enzymes which actually help in the signal transduction pathway or biological signal transduction pathway. Clear? Now listen with all your attention. Actually this A, whatever be it, that means if this A can actually enter the cell, or if this A cannot enter the cell, in both the cases there will be a receptor, for A present inside or outside the cell. Clear? Clear? Now listen. Now my question is, how can we guess, how can we guess that the receptor for A molecule will be present inside or outside? If you really want to guess this, at least you will have to know something about polarity. Okay, now listen. The things which activates or deactivates a cell is called ligand. Okay, it's called ligand. Clear? It's called a ligand. Now listen with all your attention. This ligand actually binds with a receptor. Clear? Now, an important point you need to understand here is this: whenever a ligand binds with a receptor, now listen, there are two types of receptor present. There are actually two types of receptors which are present. Okay? There are two types of receptors which are present. Number one, extracellular. Number two, intracellular. Number one, extracellular. Number two, intracellular. Now listen. A very important point you need to understand is this: that this ligand will now bind with an extracellular receptor or an intracellular receptor, right? But what are the characteristics, or what are the criteria which determine whether this ligand will bind with the extracellular or intracellular receptor? Does it depend on the cell, or does it depend on the ligand or receptor? Now listen. Whether ligand will bind with the extracellular receptor or with the intracellular receptor depends on ligand. Now listen, there are mainly two types of ligands, okay? There are mainly two types of ligands which are present, okay? Mainly two types of ligands based on polarity, and they are they are polar and other one is non-polar. Clear? First one is polar, other one is non-polar. Now listen with all your attention. Suppose, this is your suppose cell, okay? Suppose this is your cell, okay? Now listen with all your attention. Now listen. You know what is this? This is plasma membrane, right? This is lipid bilayer, right? This is lipid bilayer. Now listen with all your attention. This is called lipid bilayer. A very important point here we need to understand is this, that this lipid bilayer has a special characteristics. You know what is that? Now listen with all your attention. Suppose if we can redraw this part of the lipid bilayer, then it will be interesting. Okay? Now listen. If we redraw this part of the lipid bilayer, it will be really, really interesting. You know what is that? That is, suppose I am drawing this part with, red color. Okay? Suppose. Okay? Now listen with all your attention. This red colored portion of this lipid bilayer, this red colored portion of this lipid bilayer is actually non-polar in nature. Clear? Is actually what? Is actually non-polar in nature. Clear? Okay. Let me draw like this. This is non-polar. Okay. This is non-polar. And this portion, this head portion is actually, this portion is actually the polar portion. Okay, this is the polar portion and this is the non-polar portion. Now listen with all your attention. This is also what? This is also polar portion. So this is the polar portion and this median portion is the non-polar portion. Okay, now listen with all your attention. If any ligand has a polar characteristics, okay, if any ligand has a polar characteristics, that means it is polar in nature, then it can interact with this surface. It can interact with this surface. Suppose this is surface number 1, this is surface number 2 and this is surface number 3. So surface number 1 is nothing but extracellular surface, okay, and surface number 3 is intracellular surface, right, and surface number 2 is actually what? Non-polar, region of plasma membrane. Now listen, a very important point you need to understand is this, then why it is called non-polar, why this portion is non-polar? Because all the, fatty acid chains which are required for the synthesis of lipids, which make up the, phospholipid bilayer, are directed towards this side. Clear? Are directed this side. That's why they are non-polar, because all the, aliphatic chains are actually non-polar in nature. They don't bear any charges. Clear? Now listen with all your attention. When a polar ligand wants to interact with this surface of cell, that is, if any polar ligand wants to interact with a cell, then what will happen? It can actually cross this first and third barrier, right? But there is also a second portion here. There is also a second portion here, right? But this second portion, this polar molecule cannot, cross. Then that means for a polar ligand, now listen with all your attention, for a polar ligand or ligand, the receptor should be extracellular. Clear? For a polar ligand, the receptor should be extracellular. First understand this very basic thing. Clear? For a polar ligand or ligand, whatever it is, the receptor will be extracellular. Clear? I am talking about GPCR, obviously, no doubt about this, but this shows that you don't know anything about signaling. Wait, do you think only GPCRs have extracellular domains? What about tyrosine kinase receptor? They also do have extracellular domains. Don't talk rubbish. Wait, let me complete first. So, if a ligand is polar, then the receptor is extracellular in nature. Then its receptor will be extracellular. Clear? Clear? Now listen. A very important point here we need to understand is this, that what do you mean by polar, ligand? We'll talk about the receptors in details, don't worry. But we should understand first what do you mean by polar ligands. Okay? Now listen. Proteins are polar. Clear? Proteins are polar. Clear? Proteins are polar. Number 2, proteins are polar. Clear? Number 2, another polar molecule is some amines are polar. Amines are polar. Clear? Some amines are polar. Now listen. What are the examples of polar proteins? Right? What are the examples of polar proteins? Have you ever heard insulin? Insulin is a protein and it is polar. Clear? Okay. Now, so there are proteins. Actually, what do you mean by this? That whenever we are talking about polar proteins which have an extracellular receptor, in most of the cases, I am actually talking about hormones. I am actually talking about hormones. Clear? Proteinaceous hormone or peptide hormones. Clear? Many peptides are also included in this, polar proteins which have extracellular receptor. Okay. Now listen. What do you mean by amines? Do you know what is epinephrine or adrenaline? Do you know that? That example of polar amine is epinephrine, or adrenaline is actually a polar amine. Clear? Okay. So epinephrine also have an extracellular receptor which is called beta 1, beta 2, alpha 1 and alpha 2 adrenergic receptors. Okay. We will be talking in great details, don't worry. Now let us talk about the non-polar ligands. Okay. Now listen. Non-polar ligands do not have any charges. Clear? Non-polar ligands do not have any charges. That means they can cross the phospholipid bilayer membrane. Clear? That means non-polar ligands, these non-polar ligands have an intracellular receptor. Clear? So one thing you should always remember for your rest of the life, that is polar ligands have extracellular receptors. Extracellular receptors. Polar ligands have extracellular receptors. Okay, and non-polar ligands have intracellular receptor. Clear? And non-polar ligands have intracellular receptor. Okay, intracellular receptors. Clear? So this is the clear cut point you need to understand first before proceeding. Clear? Okay. So what are non-polar, ligands? You have already read about that. That is, all the steroid hormones are non-polar. All the steroid hormones are non-polar. Clear? All the steroid hormones are non-polar. Clear? All the steroid hormones are non-polar in nature. Clear? Okay. First point. Second point you need to understand is this, that whenever I am talking about steroid hormones, there are not only steroid hormones which are non-polar, there are also thyroid hormones. You know what are thyroid hormones? They are not steroid hormones. They are actually not steroid hormones. They are actually conjugated products of tyrosine. Now listen. Example of non-polar ligands are thyroid hormones. Thyroid hormones are also non-polar in nature. Therefore, their ligands are present inside the cell. That is, they have intracellular receptors. Clear? Okay. Now listen with all your attention. A very important point is this, that you have actually learned which ligands are using which type of receptors. Okay. Now we will be talking about mode of signal transduction. Before we talk about in details the extracellular receptors, we will be talking about extracellular receptors in detail today, don't worry. But before that, we need to talk about mode of signal transduction. Clear? So we will be talking about mode of signal transduction. Clear? Now listen with all your attention. When we are talking about mode of signal transduction, the first point which you should understand is this, that there are two modes of actually signal transduction. Number one is extracellular number two is intracellular. Number one is extracellular, number two is intracellular. Clear? Now listen with all your attention. When he was talking about actually G protein coupled receptor and GS signaling, he was actually talking about intracellular signaling. At first understand the difference between these two. Now listen. When you are talking about mode of signal transduction, you must understand there are two types of signal transduction. That is extracellular signal transduction and number two is intracellular signal transduction. The first point you need to understand is this: there are three subtypes. There are three subtypes of extracellular signaling. There are three subtypes of extracellular signaling. Okay, three subtypes. Number A. Clear? Number A is autocrine signal. Autocrine signal. You know what is autocrine signal? Whenever a cell interacts with its own receptor, this is called autocrine signal. Suppose this is a cell, okay? Suppose this is a cell. We have to show this, okay? Suppose this is a cell, okay? Clear? Suppose this is a cell, and this cell expresses a receptor. Suppose this is a receptor, okay? And when this receptor is acted upon by a ligand, suppose this is a ligand, when this receptor is acted upon by a ligand which has been secreted by its own cell, then this type of signaling is called autocrine signaling. Then this type of signaling is called autocrine signaling. You know what is the importance of autocrine signaling? You know what is the importance? Now listen with all your attention. When you will be reading about cell cycle, you will understand that at first when a cell wants to divide, the first thing you need to understand is this: there are several growth factors which are secreted by the cell itself, and it acts on the receptors expressed by its own cell. So autocrine signaling is a part of cell cycle. Clear? Autocrine signaling is a part of cell cycle. In autocrine signaling, what happens is this: a ligand binds with a receptor which is present in its own cell, which secreted the ligand. Clear? Now listen. Another type of extracellular, signal transduction method. Another type of extracellular signal transfer method is paracrine. Paracrine signaling. How many of you know the meaning of paracrine signaling? If you think that you don't know what is paracrine signaling, then probably you don't know what is synaptic transmission. Clear? Now listen. What is paracrine signaling? Now listen. Suppose this is cell A. Clear? This is cell B. Clear? Suppose this is cell A and this is cell B. Clear? Suppose this is cell A and this is cell B. Clear? Now listen with all your attention. Whenever this cell A will secrete a molecule, suppose a growth factor, and the receptor for this growth factor is present in the cell B, clear? This is called paracrine signaling. This is called paracrine signaling. Clear? This is called paracrine signaling. Okay? This is called paracrine signaling. Now listen with all your attention. Suppose in case of cell A, there is a presynaptic neuron, and in case of cell B, there is postsynaptic neuron. Then this is what? Synaptic transmission. That means you were actually studying in details about the paracrine signaling when you were studying synaptic transmission. Clear? Clear? Okay. Now the most important of them all, according to me, okay, that is endocrine signaling. Now, what do you mean by endocrine signaling? Suppose this is a cell, okay? Suppose this is a cell, and suppose this is your blood vessel, and suppose this is your another cell. Now listen with all your attention. What will happen is this: whenever this cell A will release an endocrine signaling molecule, suppose this, then this will be carried out by this will be carried out by blood, okay, and then it will reach the target cell, okay, it will reach the target cell. Now this type of signaling where the cell which is secreting that signaling molecule and the cell on which the receptor is present, they are distant, okay, they are placed apart, then this type of signaling system is called endocrine signaling, okay. This is called endocrine signaling. Clear? This is called endocrine signaling. Clear? So these are the three modes. These are three modes of signal transduction pathways. Clear? Now listen with all your attention. A very important point you need to understand. Now listen. These are the three modes. Actually, these are the three modes by which ligand reaches the target cell. That's it. The first point you need to understand. So these are the three modes actually by which the ligand actually reaches the target cell. Now, after reaching the target cell, what will happen? After reaching the target cell, what will happen? The first point you need to understand is this. After reaching the target cell, cell will determine whether this ligand is polar or non-polar. If it is polar, then its receptor will be present outside the cell. If it is non-polar, then its receptor will be inside the cell, and the ligand will enter the cell and will interact with its proper receptor. Clear? Okay. Now let's talk about the intracellular mechanism of mode of signal transduction. Now listen, whenever a ligand interacts with receptor, it starts an intracellular signaling pathway or intracellular mode of signal transduction. Now listen, this is also signal transduction, but this is extracellular. Clear? But the effect of these ligands on the effector cells, this is called intracellular mode of signal transduction. Clear? Or intracellular mode of signal transduction is also known by the name of biological amplification system. Why? We will be talking about that later. Clear? Just for the time being, you must remember this, that intracellular mode of signal transduction is also called biological amplification system. Clear? Intracellular mode of signal transduction is also called biological amplification system. Clear? This is called biological amplification system. Okay? Clear? This is called biological amplification system. Okay. Now we'll be talking about this amplification system. Okay? Now before starting the intracellular mode of signal transduction, that is the biological amplification system, we will be talking about in great details types of receptor. Okay? We will be talking about types of receptor. So now we will be talking about types of receptor. Okay. So there are actually 5 types of receptors which are present. Okay, there are actually 5 types of receptors which are present. Okay. Number 1 is the most famous G protein coupled receptor. Number 1 is G protein coupled receptor. Number 2 is nuclear receptors. Nuclear receptors. Okay. Number 3 is catalytic receptors. Catalytic receptors. Number 4 is receptors that undergo cleavage. Number 5 is ligand gated ion channels. So these are the 5 main types of receptors which will interact with your ligand. Clear? Clear? Now listen. The most famous, you know, what is this? G protein coupled receptors. Okay, heptahelical, you know everything. Now listen. But for your, you know, growth and development, can you tell me which type of receptor is absolutely essential? Now listen. There are 2 receptors which are absolutely essential for your growth and development. That is, it will be helpful for your, you know, embryology class or developmental biology class. That is catalytic receptors and receptors that undergo cleavage. You know what are the examples of catalytic receptors? The examples of catalytic receptors are tyrosine kinase receptors. That means these receptors have catalytic properties. That means they can act as kinase. That means they can actually add phosphates to other protein or to themselves. Clear? Why I have ticked down these receptors that undergo cleavage? Can you tell me? Because they are actually the part of SMAD pathway, okay, presenilin pathway, and as well as beta catenin and all these things, WNT beta catenin pathway, you know, disabled everything. Okay, these pathways are essential for your developmental biology classes. Clear? So right now we will be discussing about only G protein coupled receptor and catalytic receptors. That means for the time being we will be discussing about this first point and the third point. Now we have discussed in great details about the ligand gated ion channels when we were discussing, you know, synaptic transmission, but we will have a separate class on this, you know, ligand gated ion channels. And when we will be talking about, you know, developmental biology, we will have a separate class on signaling of developmental biology. There we will learn about, you know, receptors that undergo cleavage. Okay, and nuclear receptors we have discussed in great details the structures of thyroid receptor. Okay, clear? So thyroid receptor is actually an example. There are many variants of, you know, homologs of, you know, those proteins available. Okay, clear? We'll talk about that later, don't worry. We'll talk about glucocorticoid receptors also, we'll talk in great details. That means these 2 types of receptors we'll talk about great details today, but this receptor, nuclear receptors and all these things we'll talk about chapter wise. Okay, clear? Now listen, why are we talking about these 2 receptors in great details? Because these things are very important in our day-to-day lives. These receptors actually bind with ligands which are either neurotransmitters, which are either important hormones. That's it. Clear? So now we will be talking about the G protein coupled receptor structure, molecular structure. Okay, now listen with all your attention. Suppose this is a part of the cell membrane. Okay, suppose this is a part of the cell membrane. Now listen, we will magnify this part of the cell membrane and we will draw it like this. Clear? Now, this is a part of general, plasma membrane. Now, listen with all your attention. Whenever, there is a presence of G protein coupled receptor, these, phospholipids will come closer. These phospholipids will come closer. That means in between these gaps, we will have to draw extra phospholipids. That's it. Okay. So these phospholipids will come closer. Clear? These phospholipids will come closer. And this portion where these phospholipids have come closer due to the incorporation of, G protein coupled receptor, this area is called what? This area is called lipid raft. Okay, this area is called lipid raft. Now listen with all your attention. So lipid rafts are the places where these, G protein coupled receptors are, incorporated. Now listen with all your attention. How to define the structure of G protein coupled receptor, right? Now listen. Let me draw here. Suppose this is our, suppose this is our G protein coupled receptor. Okay, now let me draw first, then I will be talking about in details. So this is your, G protein coupled receptor. Okay. So this is your G protein coupled receptor. Clear? This is your G protein coupled receptor. Now listen. Here is your lipid rafts. Sorry. Here is your lipid raft. Clear? Here is your lipid raft. Now listen with all your attention. So this is G protein coupled receptor. Now listen. G protein coupled receptors have 7 of these, barrel shaped things. You know what are these? This is your alpha helix. These are alpha helix. Now listen with all your attention. This is the alpha helix. Okay. Now listen. This is the alpha helical portion of a protein. Okay. Now listen with all your attention possible. This is the alpha helical portion of a protein, right? Now listen with all your attention. This is the first alpha helix. This is the second alpha helix. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Okay. So GPCRs are heptahelical. GPCRs are heptahelical. Clear? GPCRs are heptahelical. This is the first point you need to understand. GPCRs are heptahelical. Clear? Now a very important point here we need to understand is this, that you must understand and you must always remember that this whole thing is a protein. It's a single protein. It's a single protein. Now listen with all your attention. There are E1, E2, E3 and E4 portions. Okay, there are E1, E2, E3 and E4 portions. These E1, E2 are exoplasmic or outside the cell portions of exoplasmic portions. Now this is what C1, C2, C3 and C4. Now listen, there are 4 cytoplasmic domains, there are 4 exoplasmic domains and there are 4 cytoplasmic domains. Clear? This is cytoplasmic domain. Now listen with all your attention possible. Now listen with all your attention. So there are 4 exoplasmic portions or domains and there are 4 cytoplasmic portions or domains. And a very important point you need to understand is this, that this is what? This is suppose the cell. Okay. Suppose this is the cell. So this is what? ICF. Okay, I will have to write this again. Okay, no problem. Listen. So this is what? ICF. This is ECF. Clear? So you must understand this, that the C terminal of this protein, the C terminal of this protein is present inside the ICF. The C terminal of, now listen, so the first characteristics of GPCR, okay. Characteristics of GPCR. Number 1, they are heptahelical. Number 2, the C terminal domain, the C terminal end of this G protein coupled receptor, C terminal or carboxy terminal, okay, carboxy terminals are present on the ICF. Clear? So this is the second, and N terminal and N terminal is present in the on the ECF. Okay, N terminal is present on the ECF and carboxy terminal or C terminal are present on the ICF. So this is your N terminal. So this is your N terminal and this is your C terminal. So C terminals are always directed towards the what? ICF, and N terminals are always directed toward the ECF. Clear? Okay. Now, a very important question lies here. Where does, now listen with all your attention, a very important question is, where does our ligand attaches? Clear? Where our ligand attaches? Now, a very important question is this, where our ligand attaches? Now, the answer is absolutely not simple. Why? Because if I tell you that 15 amino acids of all these extracellular domain, that is 15 amino acids of E1, E2, E3 and E4 will help in the binding of ligand plus E2 domain completely. That means ligand binds with E2 plus 15 amino acids present in E1 plus E2 plus E3 plus E4. Clear? Clear? So, E2 directly is involved in the binding of what? Ligand. E2 directly is the only domain which is associated with what? Binding of ligand. But E3, E4 and E1 are also indirectly involved in the binding of ligand because they are contributing a specific amino acid. Okay. Now listen with all your attention. A very important point you need to understand is this. If I will say this, that E2 and amino acids from E3, E4, E2 and E1 are involved in the binding of ligand, that means what? The ligands are always big. Right, now listen with all attention. Suppose for a peptide hormone, it is true that it is big, but a small portion of this whole protein or this peptide hormone actually binds with this. Now listen, what I am saying is this: if this whole thing is like in this form, that is in a linear shape, then a complete domain will never be formed which can actually interact with ligand. That means what? Let me give you an example. Suppose this is heptahelical, right? Suppose these are 7 pens. I don't know how to show this. Suppose these are 7 pens, okay? And they are present in a linear fashion. Okay. Suppose they are present in a linear fashion. Will they form any groove or something where I can put anything? But if I actually make them like this, then there is a groove here to which a ligand can interact or bind. That means the thing here which I have drawn like this is in a linear fashion. It's actually not represented in a linear way, but it is actually presented in a twisted way in a cell and accompanied here. So that's why if you see a picture, okay, then you will understand that this picture is actually false. Okay, this picture is actually false. In real life, the domains are present like this. They interact with each other in a very much idiotic way, as well as in a, and they will actually form these loops and all these things. Many loops are there. So this is actually a G protein coupled receptor. Clear? Now I will be showing a picture right now. Those who are watching the video, I will be showing this format right now in your screen, computer screen. Then I will be showing you this twisted format.